Hi, this is Zach with Worn&Wound. Today I'm very excited to show you a kind of a preview review of a new watch by Tempest dive watches. We first actually showed this brand just about a month ago with the Tempest Commodore. It was a titanium dive watch, 500 meters, that just very, very impressed by. Had really interesting geometry to it and a really great build quality, especially for the price, which was in like the $500-600 range. And I just kind of noted that I felt like this brand was showing this kind of next generation of boutique dive watch brand. They're no longer using stock cases or anything like that. They're really pushing the boundaries of what you can do, especially at the value of the price. And this new prototype, I think, pushes that even further. So you've probably already picked up, but the case on this watch is made out of forged carbon. Forged carbon is a material you're not going to find under $1,000, I think, as far as I know, in any other watch but the Tempest. This moment is more commonly associated with brands like Audemars Piguet and Hublot. So you're talking $10,000 plus luxury sport watches. So it's very hard to find it like this, and it's a very interesting and different material that we'll talk about shortly. And this watch is about to go to Kickstarter. So it's where it'll be available first for very good prices. I don't know the exact numbers yet, but even the final price will be under $1,000. There'll be just a really good break on it if you get it through Kickstarter. So if you're looking for this exotic material, I mean, this is really the first and probably best place to get it. Then the watch itself, very tactical, very interesting, modern-looking dive watch with a barrel-shaped case, as you can see, 200-meter dive, 200 water resistance, domed sapphire crystal, and just some very simple but beautiful details all around. So let's take a closer look. So, the obvious major feature of this watch is the forged carbon case. And forged carbon is, it's an interesting material. It's one that there isn't actually a whole lot of information about really technically about what it is or how it's made, because it's very proprietary. But, it's a material that I believe first was used largely in the, automotive racing. It's a very lightweight, very durable material. So it actually, I think, outperforms metals in a lot of circumstances. And obviously, racing, it makes a lot of sense that you want something that's light but very strong at the same time. The use in watches then, like I said, Audemars Piguet, they've been using it for several years at least. I think they were the first brand to use this material. And it offers, especially in a dive watch, sort of like titanium, a lightweight but a very strong and wear-resistant case. But then it has really interesting aesthetic qualities too. So it has this marbled look to it. Now you might be familiar with carbon fiber weaves, so where you get that kind of a crosshatch pattern, something that people use it on dials. Probably there's cases out there too. This is different than that. It's not a lattice of the material that's molded in resin. What you have here is essentially a resin and carbon mix that is molded and packed, into a form under high heat and high pressure, is then removed from that and finished. Sort of paralleling kind of how metal stamping works, I think, in some ways, but also not. Something between that and injection molding. But nevertheless, it's a fascinating material, one that's certainly hard to work with. That, I don't know exactly how they source this, but, not very many people are capable of working with this material. And it's beautiful. It's very different from a black PVD. It's also very different from a black plastic, though it does feel a little bit more like a plastic on the surface. Like, it's very neutral. It doesn't have like a temperature to it. It's very silky smooth, which is interesting. But then if you compare it to a black watch, you have this amazing dynamic flow of silver and graphite colors going through it that is really very attractive and very interesting looking. The design of the case itself is a barrel-shaped design, so it kind of dates to, have some retro feeling to it, though it is a very modern watch. It measures 43 millimeters wide, 47.25 millimeters lug to lug. So it's a wide watch, but a short watch, so it wears still very comfortably, despite, being perhaps larger in diameter than watches that might classically fit you. In height, it is 15.5 millimeters, and that's to the top of this domed sapphire crystal. Really beautiful detail here. It's a double domed sapphire crystal, so you don't get any distortion on it. But it just continues the flow of the case perfectly, and there's very little edge on it. Just a really clean, domed piece of sapphire glass. Tempest, I found this with the Commodore. They pay a lot of attention to the details, and this is a subtle one that makes a big difference to the overall look and feel of the watch. On the right side, you have a screw-down crown. I don't believe the crown is a composite material. It's very likely that there's like a sub structure in here, metal, that's holding the movement, and has all the parts in there. And then the forged, the carbon is kind of built around that. I believe some ceramic watches are like that as well. So if you screw out the crown, you do see that it has like a classic metal winding stem there. But it's a nice big crown, 7.5 millimeters in diameter, about 5 millimeters deep. It's black to match the or fit in rather with the carbon fiber. Obviously, it flows very nicely in between the two. Flipping the case over now, there's also a black case back. I like what he did here for the art. I mean, it's very simple. You just have the carbon details from the periodic table. It's a very simple but kind of spot on execution. Some details around that indicates the movement. It's the 9015, what number from the series it is. This one is all zeros because it's a sample. But yeah, just a simple, clever way to do it. Once again, I like that this is black to fit with the case. The dial is very simple, but has this kind of nice trend of playing off of classic dive watch themes, but looking very modern, which I think Tempest seems to do very well. So you have a matte black surface with a very steeply angled black chapter ring around it. A primary index of applied Loom markers. These are interesting markers. They almost look like almost like a chiclet kind of a thing, and I think they are perhaps actually molded Loom, which I know is something that is capable of, and it's all BGW9 Loom, so it glows very nice bright blue. But they have really nice contrast with the dial too, and they have this interesting shape. There's a little bit of three-dimensionality to them, like they kind of come up and almost have a little bit of a faceting on the top. So they're simple, but very effective and very bold. And then that's really it. I mean, you have these minute markers, second markers between on the chapter ring. The chapter ring has these cut-throughs through it, so that the applied markers kind of sit in the chapter ring too. So another little nice detail, adds like a little bit of texture to it. Center of the dial is pretty barren. The Tempest logo below 12, I like their logo, this kind of orange cross-shaped thing. It's really nice, loud orange. And then just, your basic dive details, 200 meters, 660 feet, automatic, above 6. They left off the date window on this watch, which I think is a fine idea. Sometimes, obviously date windows can be kind of contentious, and when there isn't one, it just gives everything a much cleaner look, though I'm sure people are going to want it with date too, but can't please everyone all the time. The hour and minute hand here, similar kind of modern take on dive watch hands. They're very maximized for the Loom kind of presence in them, so you have a very thin outline with a lot of Loom inside. Obviously you have the kind of, plunger style bright orange minute hand. It uses the same orange, obviously it's here for the fluorescent Tempest logo, as well as on the stick second hand. So there's this nice little rhythm of color there. I think on this watch, you have the case material as the star. Going too far with the dial or making it too complex would have taken away from that, would have been a different kind of story. Here it's just about a modern, simple dive watch with, these use of interesting materials, but it's still very aesthetically pleasing. It's just very to the point and purposeful. On the wrist, the watch wears beautifully. Like I said, it's 43 millimeters in diameter, so that is wide, but the 47.25 millimeter lug to lug, which is really the more important measurement, is quite short. So it fits very nicely on a 7-inch wrist. I think it fits smaller wrists. Definitely does not wear as like a 43 millimeter watch you might assume wears. In fact, before I read the actual dimensions, I thought it was closer to 40 millimeters. So it's extremely comfortable, and that comfort is raised even by the extremely light weight of the carbon fiber. And the look of this watch is fantastic. The mix of the simple dial and the exotic case material works very well. So you have something that is definitely interesting and eye-catching, but it's not ostentatious. It's not trying to get attention by being, this luxury watch attempt kind of a thing. That said, you can definitely understand why this material is used by, those luxury brands, not just because of the properties of it, the mechanical properties of it, but because it does have this interesting, luxurious look to it. It does not, doesn't look like just some swirly colored plastic. It really looks like something interesting and different. And in this context, and since this is a relatively affordable tool watch, it has a kind of more of a tactical kind of a feel to it. So yeah, it just comes across very well. I think it's very handsome. You can wear this to the office, and certainly wear this, in a sports circumstance, out hiking to the beach, etc., etc. It comes mounted on a 22 millimeter, I believe this is a Kevlar type material strap. It's an interesting strap. These aren't like a strap type that I would normally be, attracted to, but it works very well in this context because it doesn't really make sense to have this modern watch come with a leather strap that you wouldn't necessarily want to wear in the water, and a metal bracelet obviously wouldn't fit in with the forged carbon case. So this material kind of feels and wears like a leather strap, but has a look that is much more synthetic and closer to the material of the case. So works very well. Once again, it's very tactical looking, has this really nice ridge of foam in it, so it has a nice molded quality to it. It does taper a little bit, and the underneath is like a synthetic kind of leathery rubber feeling. I can't quite describe it. So it is very comfortable. Here you have a kind of an angled thumbnail buckle, also in black PVD to match the aesthetic of the watch. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a different take on a dive watch, this is extremely cool. To wrap up, the Tempest Carbon is a very impressive watch from this young brand. I mean, the fact that they use the forged carbon is really exceptional. It's not a material you see often, and it's a material, like I've said, that is associated with luxury watches. So finding it under $1,000 in this watch here is super impressive. Frankly, finding it under $10,000 is still very rare. So, I mean, this watch is immediately going to find, I think, a very excited market, very, excited enthusiasts, dive watch enthusiasts who haven't been able to get to those APs and Hublots, who really want that look and feel of the forged carbon. And it is a very interesting, exotic material. I think it's definitely has enough qualities to it to make it, worthwhile to kind of look into, rather than titanium, rather than steel PVD, And then the watch itself, I think, is just very attractive. I like that he stayed kind of reduced with the design, that the case itself is about the material, and then the design is subtle, but it's very nice. Has that kind of barrel shape, very like sort of retro, speaks to classic dive pieces, but they didn't push it. They didn't try and make this over the top or extravagant. Similar to the dial, just well done, very clean, has classic looks to it, but still very modern and very much feels like a flavor that this brand is building on. So once again, slightly under $1,000, forged carbon, Miyota 9015, double domed sapphire crystal, and just great design all around. Please read the full review on Worn&Wound. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you.